hates when I play that entire intro all the way through. Like, he really hates it. It's funny. But this is touchdowns. Oh, definitely.
He forgot his lines.
Never. I just always wanted to play that one all the way through. But this is Touchdowns and Tents, everybody. Here at the Good News Radio station. Shout out to all our affiliates. Good News Radio, Good News Sports.
FPC Radio, X Squad affiliates, your favorite podcast app, et cetera, et cetera.
There you go. And we're here on this wonderful Thursday night on December 42nd of 2020. Because I don't know what to call 2021. But anyway, so we got a special guest, former guest, CSUN alum. This time we got the Zoom situation figured out from the get-go. There will be no
technical difficulties.
Yeah, none of those. So salute to Gilbert Manzano, LA Chargers beat writer, CSUN alum. How you doing? How you doing, Gilbert?
Doing well. You know, there wasn't an awkward, intro like last time. You guys were asking me where I'm from or what. I don't know what city or what country. I don't know what you guys were asking, but I said Ortigia. That's where I live, and you guys were like, I've never heard of that city, and that was kind of the intro there. But this time it was like a long intro for music that you guys had a little conversation about, and I liked the ending. It was a little Michael Myers vibe, so maybe keep it going. I don't know. I'm sorry that's going to upset somebody. Pete, I think you weren't a fan of the music, but I like the finish. Maybe bring in the finish a little sooner next time.
Definitely.
All right, good feedback. I like that.
Yeah, thanks. And it's funny because Pete got that recording. And he's like, "Yeah, I like this," but now he's like,
"We play it." That hates it, Kenneth. Is it you that hates it?
No, I like it, but he's the one who actually got the sound. But now he never plays it.
It's just too long.
We never play that one.
Yeah, it is pretty long, but I like the little twist at the end. It was like a Michael Myers, whatever, Freddy Krueger thing.
Got to keep on your toes. But yeah, like we were kind of talking about beforehand, keeping people on their toes. Playoffs are here. The Rams are in. The Chargers aren't. But arguably, no team lost more close games than the Chargers did. I think in NFL history, it got down to they were losing by 3-4 points in the last couple of minutes. Explain just the process of what you saw covering the Chargers this year.
It was the same old from the last 2 years. I felt like I was covering the same team back-to-back years, 2019, 2020. Now that I think about it, with the close games, I think there was 23 one-score games out of 32 games. So that made my life difficult, not knowing the outcome when I had to write a story on deadline, waiting for them to. Well, maybe I could have written them because they lost most of these one-score games. I could have wrote it in a way where they lost. It's always like a tricky ending, like a missed field goal, running without timeouts. Something strange always happens with this team, so I can't even predict it. But you guys reminded me it was, a lot of one-score games, and maybe in a way they felt like playoff games. So there was no playoffs with the Chargers, but it was very intense every week. So I'm gonna take it like that and view it that way. Because they were in the playoffs for the last 2 years and one-score games.
So how does that work? Do you write multiple gamers, or do you just knock it out whenever that crazy moment happens?
Yeah. So I guess when I first started covering this team, maybe 2018 was my first year. Even that year, they had a lot of close games, but they were winning those at least. But I think that first year I was kind of writing. I got used to writing that they're going to win. They went to the playoffs that year, so I got used to that. So by 2019, I was doing the same thing. Okay, they're going to win. They're going to win. Because they were always ahead, and it was like a 10-point lead or whatever. So I just felt that way. But I learned my lesson the hard way. You got to write both. Loss. Or win, but it's just a tricky thing. They always make it difficult where I don't know how the outcome's going to be. You think it's a field goal. It could be they lose on a penalty. I'm trying to think. I'm blanking out, but there were so many different ways every week where they made it different.
It's like you said. It's like the past 2 seasons are all just kind of blurred together. I can't even remember all of them.
I can't. But to answer your question, you got to write both. Loss and a win, and I feel like most of the time, leading up to the final 1 or 2 drives, I feel like I'm missing everything because I'm looking down at the laptop trying to write the story and get out the way.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
Yeah, I look up, okay, so still one-score game, and there's 30 seconds on the clock, and that's when I really start paying attention sometimes. It's a little crazy sometimes. I have to go back and watch it after the game.
And that folks is peeling the curtain back. Everyone wants to be at the games, but you still work.
Yeah.
And so with that, you mentioned kind of the past few seasons being the same, and I'm wondering, like, do you think that kind of went into the decision of parting ways with Anthony Lynn, who's, pretty well respected throughout NFL media and NFL coaches? Was it just time for a change?
Yeah, I feel like I was writing the same stories again, not with the one-score games, but with are they going to fire Anthony Lynn?
Yeah.
Are they going to make a move? And then you really felt like they had to make a move after they got blown out by the Patriots 45-0. And then they won 4 games in a row, and you start thinking, okay, maybe he saved his job, maybe he didn't. So I guess I was surprised maybe that they didn't give him a 5th year, because maybe he did enough in the final month. And usually the Chargers I guess they don't really, usually when they have guys on contract, because Lynn had one year on the contract, they roll the dice and play it safe and go 1 more year. This time they got ahead of it, because maybe you give Lynn 1 more year and it works out. But most of the times when it's kind of not working and you keep forcing it, it's like a failed relationship where it's over, but you keep going. But credit to the Chargers. I'm still not even sure it was the right move, but it just felt like week 1 through 13, there was just so much bad ugliness, and you just can't forget it because they won 4 games in a row. So I think for the Chargers, credit to them to actually looking at the full picture. But yes, the one-score games were definitely a knock. Time management, conservative play calling, blowing double-digit leads, stuff like that. I know they had a bunch of injuries, but the injuries were the excuse a year ago. After 2 years, eventually you got to overcome those obstacles. And maybe it's blame on the GM for not giving him better players to kind of step up their injuries. The GM, came back, and, we're kind of pretty hard on him, the reporters, because I don't think it's kind of fair that he's back and the coach isn't. Usually it's kind of a paired package, but that's what the Chargers wanted to do. And right now they're looking for a new head coach.
And despite, the ultimate shortcomings that got him relieved, what are some of the best things you feel like Lynn brought to this organization that they didn't have before, and that they're kind of leaving behind for whoever comes in?
Definitely, a leader, a strong character, somebody that everybody respected. He provided a healthy locker room, no drama. The Chargers make my life difficult on game days, but throughout the week, I don't expect to get a phone call, somebody get in trouble in the middle of the night, DUI, something crazy like that, criminal backgrounds, because Anthony Lynn, he had a tight ship there. He did not have any time for nonsense. So in that terms, he had it down. Everybody respected Anthony Lynn. I don't know if they feared him, but they did not want to cross him, and he had command of that entire operation there. I think for him, where it came down was maybe he was doing too much. I think he wanted to kind of maybe keep an eye on special teams, offense, defense, and maybe the coordinators, to the fault, weren't doing the job. So he had to look over a lot of people. And then when it came down to crunch time, maybe he had too much on his plate. And so, with a head coach, you got to be a leader away from the football field, but you also got to know how to command a lot going on game days. And that's what really kind of derailed Anthony Lynn. But overall, as a leader, he was great. And I really think he deserves another shot as a head coach, because once you get experience, you're better for it. But I think first time around, it was a struggle for him, and he did take the team to the playoffs. So maybe it was just injuries, or who knows what it was the last 2 years. But I think overall, that strong character, leadership, things he does away from football, community stuff, is top notch. Probably the best in the league from the last couple of years. So hopefully he's back out there. Maybe it might be an OC job for him, and then work his way up. But definitely, he has everything you want in a leader in terms of that standpoint. You just got to get better in game management.
Speaking of which, you bring up leadership and intangibles. Justin Herbert, probably the biggest bright side in this organization since maybe LaDainian Tomlinson, as far as the talent you can build around. Phillip Rivers never had like a live arm, and there were questions when they traded Drew Brees. But with Herbert having the greatest statistical rookie season ever, where does that trajectory put the Chargers as compared to the Rams, who are kind of having issues with Jared Goff right now?
Yeah, that's a little tough, because the Rams are making it work without, and I guess not without, but despite Jared Goff's struggles, because they have a top-notch defense. That defense is fast, it's solid. They create takeaways, they get sacks, and when you have a defense like that, they're going to keep you in the game. We'll see how it works out with them with the Packers. But with the Chargers, it's different. The defense is not like that. They need a quarterback to get the points. I know they had a bunch of injuries. There was no Derwin James this year, no Drew Tranquil. Chris Harris Jr. missed a bunch of games. Casey Hayward was pretty banged up. He wasn't the same player. Melvin Ingram missed a bunch of games. So there's a bunch of players. I feel like every time you look at this roster on defense in July, August training camp, you feel like it's stacked. But it doesn't work out for them for some reason. So it falls on the offense. And for a rookie quarterback, Justin Herbert, to kind of keep this team in one-score games, at least make it count and fight to the end. He did that, from week 2 when he first got in over Tyrod Taylor with the medical mishap there, and to only have a minute notice. It was pretty fun to watch him do that on a week-to-week basis, and then watch him grow, because he was lining up to score the stat sheet. He was getting 300 yards a game, 3 to 4 touchdowns. I felt like every week. But he was losing the close games. By the end of it, I think he got a streak of 3 games in a row where he had game-winning final drives. And that's what you want to see for your rookie quarterback. And to have stuff like that on your resume so early and to have that type of experience, I think goes a long way for Justin Herbert.
It's crazy because I remember when we had you on at the beginning of the season, we were talking about Herbert, like, hey, is the hard knock stuff, is that real or is it just, cut? And you were talking about his intangibles, and again, he kind of just delivered on all that we talked about, both the intangible and the physical gifts. So. Yeah,
it's crazy because back then, which was not that long ago, in August, like you mentioned, Kenneth, it's still 2020, so maybe it isn't that long ago.
December 42nd.
But when I first talked to you guys, we were unsure about Justin Herbert because maybe it was too much of the scout talk and armchair guys that are watching college football every Saturday saying that this guy has the skills, but he can't read a defense, he can't play against the blitz. He doesn't have it upstairs with the mental game, stuff like that. But once you took him away from the Oregon offense, people forget, everything's different in the NFL. It depends on your surroundings. The offensive line was terrible, but he had Keenan Allen, he had Austin Eckler, he had Mike Williams, he had Hunter Henry. So you gave him a good scheme, you put him with the playmakers, and we'll see how it goes. And it turns out that when he's in the right situation with good coaches, and I feel like, going back to Anthony, he didn't get enough credit for having a historic rookie, season. Like he developed the guy. He groomed him. He helped him out. I know Pep Hamilton gets a lot of the credit. Shane Steichen sometimes does too. But Anthony Lynn never got the credit for Justin Herbert. And I think he was a guy who pushed them to be a leader, to be the voice in the locker room. And that was probably the missing piece for Justin Herbert. That's why he fell maybe. And I say fell to number 6, but he was the 3rd quarterback taken in the draft. And maybe because people said he's not an alpha male, he's not talkative, he's not rah-rah. And maybe Anthony Lynn noticed that, but he loved the physical, the attributes, the arm strength. And he's probably said, hey, I can make this guy be more talkative, be more outgoing. And Justin Herbert said it when Anthony Lynn got fired. He said, that guy pushed me every day to be out of my comfort zone, to talk and be more vocal. So I think Anthony Lynn deserves a lot of credit. So I think once he figured that out, he was comfortable in the locker room, he won the whole team over. That's when the rest probably came easy to him.
And on paper, you look at the roster. I mean, Mike Williams had some injuries, but he still made plays when it counted. Keenan Allen is what he is. Eckler was pretty good. Looking towards the draft, where do you think is the Chargers' biggest need?
Definitely offensive line. It's got to be at the top. They keep ignoring that position, or I guess that whole group. Every April when the draft rolls around, for some reason they leave it to the last minute. They haven't really gone heavy on offensive line since 2017 when they drafted Dan Feeney, Sam Tevy, and Forrest Lamp, and all those guys started, but they have not